This is one of my favorite pictures. This is a picture of my grandfather, the grandson of Samuel Tappan Holder. So my grandfather is to the left, and he was named after his grandfather, Samuel. The middle is Richard, his brother, and Harry is to the right, his other brother. So there were three brothers, Richard, Sam, and Harry. And you're probably wondering what this is, but I can tell you how excited I was when I saw this list. And I saw passenger 182, passenger 183, 184, and 185. My great-great-grandfather, Samuel Tappan Holder, Susanna Jane Holder, Nathaniel Holder, my grandfather, actually my great-grandfather, and Margaret Ann Holder. It was so exciting to see this you know, we've been told all of our lives about these people traveling, but I actually see them on the roster. It's so exciting. Hello, my name is Versia Holder Davis. I am the great-granddaughter of Nathaniel Holder. Nathaniel was a year old when he traveled on the Brig Cora to Liberia with his parents, Samuel Tappan Holder, his mom, Susanna Holder, and his sister, Margaret Ann. I got my hands on the roster for that ship, and it was such a blessing to see them listed as passengers. It was just really confirmation of all that we've been told as children. The years, I mean the date of birth was a little bit off from what we taught, because we've always been told that he traveled to Liberia probably when he was about 12 years old. But no, he was only a year old. It was such a blessing. I remember my dad letting us know that we were from the West Indies, and I was like, West Indies? I have no idea what that means, but it sure did sound exotic, and I just felt a sense of pride that we're from wherever that was. And so to grow up and then be able to do a little bit of research and find out our origin has been really a blessing. My grandfather was Samuel Holder, and he was obviously named after his grandfather, Samuel Tappan. So he was Samuel also. He was married several times, and then eventually he married my grandmother, Catherine Uri Holder. They had 7 children that survived. I believe they had several children, but 7 of them survived into adulthood. Most Liberians probably know Emberly Holder because of his involvement in the Richard R. Talbert government. I believe he was Minister of Defense and Minister of National Security at some point. So we are certainly proud of his contribution to Liberia. But he did have other brothers who did do the same. His older brother, Feeder, studied in England along with Burley, and he came back and worked with the Liberian Mining Company. Donald worked with B.F. Goodrich Rubber Company, and also, now, who I consider my hero, Hoover Holder, a self-made man, rose through the ranks and eventually became a resident silver engineer at Public Works. He can be credited for a lot of the roads that were built in the rural Liberia. He would leave his family for months and be out there in the wilderness, you know, building roads and bridges. So kudos to him. I think he did an awesome job for the people of Liberia. And then, of course, there's my dad. I would say he was an entrepreneur at heart. He always had 2-3 jobs going at a time, 2-3 businesses going at a time. He would work 7 days a week, actually, to just provide for his family. His last position with the government of Liberia was Deputy Director for Procurement and Supplies at Public Works. I can remember even when the OAU came to Liberia, that was 1979, I believe. When I tell you, he would work for long hours, wake up and go right back. And then on Friday evenings would leave for his rubber plantation, which was his pride and joy. I'm telling you, he had several stores. He had a distillery at one point. But that rubber plantation was his pride and joy. And I learned so much from him of working hard. I mean, there was no losing. It was like you didn't have an option. You have to do well in school. You had to work hard. I think he pushed working hard even more than school, because you can have millions of degrees, and if you're a lazy person, you will not survive. So he was all about hard work and dedication, and he did it very well. I can remember while he lived with me, I was juggling my real estate business and working at a hospital. And I would come home and say, "Daddy, I'm so tired." And he was like, looking for sympathy now. But he would say right back to me without even thinking, "Well, you cannot be tired. When you get old, you have a lot of time to rest. So work as hard as you can right now to make sure you and your family secure." So if I didn't learn anything in this life, I know nothing is free, nothing is easy. You have to work hard to get where you're going. So I learned that from my dad. He was extremely hard worker at all times. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my grandmother, Catherine Holder. My grandfather died at an early age, left her with babies. I think my dad said he was about 13 years old. And as you can imagine, Crozierville during those times, it was tough. A mother left with all these children trying to survive. She worked hard. Another example of hard work. She was a quilt maker. She would sit on her porch for hours making quilts. My grandfather left an orange orchard, and so they would fill those bags with oranges, take it to the American embassy, all of the embassies in Liberia. She did whatever she had to do for her boys to succeed. With the help of family members, that's how it was. You know, everybody put together and supported each other to make it work, because it was not easy. And I can remember also from the oranges, she started selling quilts to the embassy workers. And that's how she survived. And of course, as her sons became more stable and things worked out for them, you know, her life became easier and easier. Traveled to the U.S. several times, and England. And so we are just grateful and thankful for all that my grandparents and great-grandparents have achieved. When I think of Samuel Tappan Holder, can you imagine being about 24 years old, deciding to take your wife and your 1-year-old and your 2-year-old on the ocean to world unknown, trying to just create a better situation for them? I cannot imagine. I think he was extremely brave, courageous, and I just want to thank him, because, you know, I'm sure at some point with all of the difficulties of resettling into a new country, he probably was a little bit discouraged. But I want to thank him because of the sacrifice that he made. That's why we're here today, and in a better place. And the irony of all of this, he fled Barbados from the slave masters. But today I found out that his great-great-granddaughter has returned to Barbados, and she's in medical school. Can you imagine? Now, when you talk about you know, I don't want to say pay back, but we want to, when we just want to talk about God's grace and mercy, and, you know, how things can change from a slave master. Now she's in medical school. Now we can just give God glory for all that he's done and he's continued to do for the people of Liberia, the people of Crozierville. May we not forget what we came from. I am one of those people who really strong on the history of our people. We do have a website. It's called The Holders of Crozierville. And since I put up that website, I've got such an awesome response. That's how I got the roster. Someone posted it that I don't even know. So I just want to encourage us all to just continue to work hard and do right. And God will always bless our efforts.